I like the visual aspect of currency because I grew up in poverty. And when you grow up in poverty, you don't have money. No one teaches you about money. You can have some negative, like emotional connection to money. So when people start, talking to me and I can feel that scarcity mindset coming from them, I want to remind them that it's just a piece of paper. Does not care who you are, man, woman, what your upbringing was, how much money you have, has absolutely no tie to that. It's just a tool that you're going to use to help reach your financial goals. And so when you can see it in a visual aspect, you can touch it, feel it. You're like, oh, just like my pen over here. It's just a tool. So let's shift that mindset so we can focus more on obtaining money to get to your goals versus being scared of losing something because you didn't have it when you grew up.
Hey there, do you want to skip the trial and error in real estate investing? Visit my website, dwanderful.com. I will show you how to do double your income in no time at all. A broke single mom fired from Denny's becomes America's most sought after real estate investor. How does that happen? Well, that's me, Dwan Benton Twyford, aka Dwanderful. But it doesn't stop there. I, along with some amazing guests, are going to teach you everything there is to know about investing. Listen, success is not exclusive. I can teach you, you can have it too. I can share with you. So I want you to join me for season 5 of the most wonderful real estate podcast ever. Cheers. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the most wonderful real estate podcast ever. I am so excited to have a guest today, Miss Angela Duncan, and we're going to find out all about her here in just a moment. So I am Dwan Benton Twyford, aka Dwanderful. You can find me at dwanderful.com. If you opt in at my website, I have some free training information, some free ebooks, and some fun things like that. I went from a broke single mom to a millionaire real estate investor. So that's what we're here to teach you. It's all about money and life and living and investing and all the things that you need to know. Our motto at Dwanderful is people before profits. So if it resonates with you, you're at the right place. I'm your girl. I think this is your girl too. And we're just going to have some fun and find out how things are. So Miss Angela, how are you today?
I'm doing amazing. Thank you so much for having me today.
And first, I'm going to tell you, you are so beautiful.
Oh, thank you. For those that are maybe watching, Zoom has some great filters.
They do. See this lipstick? Not real. It's Zoom. Once I discovered I could put on some lipstick, I was like, and a little bit of cheeks. I was like, oh, but I do actually have on the actual makeup today. But I love the Zoom filter. It's like, oh, wow, look at this flawless skin that I don't have anyplace else on my body. But I still love it. So how are you today?
I'm doing great. Here in Miami, it's super hot right now, but it's partly why we live in Florida is we get the sunshine all year long.
Yeah, we do. I love Florida. Well, we'd like to start off and have a quick toast. I am drinking some live enzymes. What do you have?
Just water for me today.
Good water. Okay, cheers, everyone. Grab your drink. And I tell everyone at the beginning of every show, everyone just like, take a deep breath and like, give yourself one of those stretches, like shake off all the negativity and just hang out with us and open your mind and just have a good time. We're going to laugh, we're going to talk, and we're going to learn. So, Miss Angela, we just kind of like to throw people to the wolves over here. So, what I want you to do is just very, very briefly, just tell us who you are, all the ways to reach you on social media. And that's about it. We just really want to know what's your deal. Then I'm going to ask you some questions and see how you came to be Angela Duncan, who's on my podcast today.
Okay, sounds great. Well, my name is Angela Duncan. Empower Her Money is my brand. And you can find me on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. I do have a podcast as well called Empower Her Money and on YouTube. So those are all the social media channels you can find me.
Easy enough. And that was really great. So I like some people still go on. I'm like, okay, I just said like a minute. I have questions here and I have to ask questions.
We have this great thing called Google. So if you really want to find someone, just Google their name. We'll keep it simple.
That's what I always tell people. It's like, listen, it's Dwanderful. If you just type it in, there's 80,000 pages about me. It's not, you don't even have to remember Dwan Benton Twyford, just Dwanderful, and I'm literally everywhere. All right.
Mm.
So, and about your YouTube, do you do weekly videos, calls? How do you do on YouTube?
Yeah, so we do a lot of short videos, but Monday through Friday, the podcast is posted. So there's hundreds of thousands of videos on YouTube, lots of
Nice,
education about money.
nice, nice, nice. Okay. So it's empower her money. So we talk about money. So what is something I'm new, I'm listening, I'm thinking about investing or not, I don't know what I'm doing. What do I not know about money?
Yeah. So one of the main things that I love to talk about, I'm a passive investor. I'm conservative. I don't want to spend a ton of time, and I've been through many real estate cycles. So what I love to talk about is tax lien investing and teaching people about this avenue that not a lot of folks seem to know about. And I don't find a lot of education on YouTube on that specific topic. But if you want to get into the real estate space and perhaps don't have a ton of time and you want to be more conservative and passive, then it's a great opportunity for you to learn more to see if it's a right fit for you.
And you know what? I got to tell you, tax lien investing, hardly anyone ever does talk about that. I mean, I had my podcast for 5 years. I probably haven't had five guests that talk about that. And it's a really great way. And people, I think it's one of the things that people don't know it exists.
Hmm.
So tell us about it. So tax lien investing. So if I'm new, again, I'm a new, I don't have very much. I'm listening to you on YouTube. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna take my first step.
Yeah.
What would that look like for me?
That was me about 10 years ago. I
Yep.
had been in real estate for a while, was doing the flipping, was doing single family rentals, and honestly just got tired of picking up the phone call, fixing a toilet on Sunday or Christmas, right? I was like, there's got to be a better way for me to invest. Maybe not as great as returns as some of the other avenues, but to make it less of my time.
Uh-huh.
And so I'm a numbers person. I picked up a book called The 16% Solution. It's still out there. It's not my book, but that was the first book that I started thinking and learning about tax lien investing. And obviously, well, I can earn 16%. How? Where? Where do you sign up? Right. So I read through
Yeah,
this
heck
book.
yeah.
And I read through this book and I started to just get more education. Obviously, this was a little bit, 10 years ago, not as much information online. So I'm very much a book person. But what I realized is in the state of Florida, you can earn up to 18% interest for being a passive investor, right? So I'm going to break it down and try and make tax liens very simple to understand.
Okay.
If you own a home, you have to pay property taxes, whether it's a condo, townhome, house, commercial building. The government wants their money and it's due every year, right? So whether or not you have it, the government is going to want that money from you in the form of property taxes because, well, they take that money and they have it budgeted. They have to pay for things like employee salaries, police officers, teachers,
Mhm.
building roads, right? They have all of these expenses and they count on you as the homeowner to pay your taxes on time. And something happens in your life. You get sick or perhaps someone passes away, you lose a job and you just can't pay those property taxes. Well, those property taxes in the form of a tax lien get auctioned off to people who want to invest. So say I come in and Dwan, you haven't paid your property taxes, which I know in the past 20 years is not the case, but you haven't paid your property taxes and the government says, hey, I need help. Come online, bid on this tax lien, and I will pay you an interest rate that we're going to agree upon up front.
Yes.
So I come buy that piece of paper. The government gets their money to pay their bills. And in return, when the property owner finally pays their taxes back, I get a guaranteed interest rate that the government and I have already discussed as soon as I bid on that property. So you know what you're going to get going
Yep.
into it, interest rate, and it will come some point in the future. That's the unknown factor, but it's a way for you not to have to go out and do a whole lot of research and spend a lot of time on it because the auction only happens once a year.
Yeah, it's funny. I love tax liens. I When I first started, so I've been investing for 30 years. So a million years ago, I would go down, I was in Broward County in Fort Lauderdale. And so I would go to the courthouse and like, bid on the houses. And then I met a woman there. And I would say it could have been you, but she was my age at that time, so it definitely can't be you. And she only bought tax liens, and she just had a stack. And she would go bid on these liens, and I remember talking to her a few times. I remember buying a couple of tax liens, but I don't know, I guess because I was just really into actually rehabbing at that time. I never really dipped my toe in it and stayed in it, but I knew about it. But now, one thing this woman was doing is she was buying tax liens on. There's a lot of vacant property, like in Fort Lauderdale, like west. It was still kind of swampy, and they were building towns like Wellington and things like that. And there was a lot of vacant property that people bought, thinking it was going to be some gold mine someday, and it never did. So they just let it go. And she was buying land and keeping it for just the price of the tax liens. And I was like,
Mhm.
dang, that seems like a really good thing to do. So so I love that. But I have and even now that you're saying that, it's like I should do that because I haven't done that for such a long time. And I kind of it's one of those things like I've kind of for me personally, kind of just like I think because we got so busy on our buildings, I just kind of like put that behind us, like, you know what? Tax liens are a great way to make money. And it's guaranteed, whatever the interest rate amount is guaranteed.
Yeah. And so that what you hit on is really important. You've got to decide if this is going to be a route that you want to start investing. What does your buy box look like? For example, mine, I'm looking for a homestead property because my strategy is just to earn that interest rate. I don't necessarily want to foreclose on that property. I don't want
Yes.
to own it. I don't want to flip it. I don't want to do that. I want to be as passive as possible. So my buy box, I'm looking for a homestead property. I want it to be a house. I don't like to work with HOAs, so staying away from condos and townhomes. And then I look for areas in which is still growing that people want to live in. So then hopefully that homeowner wants to live in that area. They're going to eventually pay off their property taxes. That's my goal, is for them to pay it off and for me to get paid my interest rate. So it's
Yep.
very important for you to decide what your buy box is. But that was a great opportunity for that person picking up vacant land, knowing that this is a city that's growing. And when she goes through that foreclosure route, she's going to own that property just for the cost of the
For the
tax lien.
taxes. This woman, I wish I could remember her name, but have to call someone down in Fort Lauderdale and ask her again. She had so many tax liens. I was like, I don't understand. Because, I was so new. Like, I knew. Like, no one trained me. I learned by the seat of my pants. I barely even knew. And when I found out I could go to the courthouse steps, as they call it, and bid on houses, like, you could just go buy it. Like, I don't, like, I couldn't even, I was so new. I was like, I wish I would have had someone like me or even half of what I know at that time. I was literally seat of my pants person. And I think because I was so new, I'm hearing about the courthouse steps, which by the way, I never got one single house. So, of all the ways in the entire world to buy houses, I think I have purchased a house every way known to man, except I've never won one at the courthouse steps. And I don't, it's because I don't pay enough. I go to like there, I have an exact number. This is all I'm paying. And then someone overbids me. And then, of course, you had the problems 30 years ago with like the boys club where all the guys go. And even though they're not supposed to, they all make deals who's going to get what house. And I was like, but now I'm like, you know what? I think I need to just buy one at the courthouse steps, even if I overpay for it, just to say I did it. It's the
Mhm.
one thing I've never done. And I did have a couple tax liens. But what I learned just as my smidge of knowledge compared to what you have, the if it's a home, like you said, a homestead. So I like the fact that you said it's a homestead, because if it's a house, if they haven't paid their taxes when the time period's up, the bank is not going to let the house go for the taxes. The bank will at least pay them if they're taking the house back. And so for everyone, and I mean, you're probably going to touch on it, but the thing about taxes that's great is if someone the houses go to the tax sale, and maybe it's 2 years before the whoever can can buy them, or before they lose the property, the bank always steps up because they're not going to let a $200,000 house go for $5,000 worth of taxes. But they do let them go to the tax sale sometimes. They just step in before it's due. Is that correct?
Yep, that's correct. But the tax lien is in first position. So even though the bank is
That's
going and bidding on the property, they are already calculated that they're going to have to pay me as the investor back, which is fine. I don't want to own the property. So let them go bid on it, take the property back, pay me what I'm due, and then they can deal with paying for the cost of the foreclosure, bidding on the property, then
yep.
disposing of the property. That's sure, they're likely to make more money than me, but I already know what I'm making going into it, and I'm fine with that because I don't want to do
Hmm.
all that additional work.
That's right. And that is the nice thing is that with tax liens, the bank, it does move into the first position. So you have this whatever, 300,000 mortgage, and maybe the tax lien is what, 10,000?
Mhm.
It moves in front of the mortgage. So if the bank somehow went under the rug and they missed it, you would own that entire house free and clear for the tax lien,
Correct.
which is what I
Correct.
think my friend used to do on all this vacant land that she was snapping up like that. But she ended up with a lot of swampland.
Yeah, and we did see a lot of that back when we were, you saw the bigger banks kind of
Yeah.
merging and acquisition with the smaller banks. Some of the paperwork would get lost in the
Yep.
shuffle, right? So I could do the foreclosure, own the property, and then I have to let the lender know. But at that point, I already have it. So too bad for you. But they go after the homeowner at that point. They don't come after me because I'm first position.
Yep, you're in first position. That's exactly right. That is exactly right. So now, when you bid on these, how are you? Are you doing the or sending someone to the courthouse and bidding on the tax liens?
This is where the advance in technology has made this so much simpler. The auctions for tax liens are online. So when it comes to the actual bidding process, you're going to put which tax liens you want to acquire and the max or the minimum interest rate that you're going to accept for the property. So you and I, we could bid on the same property online. If I'm willing to take 10%, but you said that you wanted 12, obviously the guy with me because they're going to pay me less. But the whole tax lien investing bid is now online. There's a lot that you need to do in front of the auction time, but that's why the time period is about 2 months from the time they list the properties that are available for tax lien auction to the time that they close the auction.
Nice. And so, do you buy only in Florida or do you buy around the country?
I only do Florida because part of my own process is that I want to drive by the property. I want to make sure there's a home there. I don't want to, end up with land or something because
That's
it's
so true.
possible. It's possible that there was a fire and the tax owner took the insurance payout and just left and they no longer want the property, right? It's possible. So I'm going to drive by and at least make sure there's a house there because if
Mhm.
I did have to go through that foreclosure process, at the end of the day, I need something that I can turn around and sell quickly.
Yeah. I think if it was a nice piece of land in a good area, even if it had burned to the ground, somebody would probably still take it.
Yeah, but you don't know. Could it be like a tiny sliver of land that is not big enough to build on, or maybe there was a rare turtle that was on the land and now you can't build on it. So I'm looking for the physical property to be there
And
still.
see, that is the stuff that people need to know. So if someone is listening, they go, I didn't know something couldn't sell because a rare turtle was on it. You
Mhm.
obviously, I'm going to assume you teach people and you train people how to look for all, because this is one of those things like any kind of investing. You need to know kind of all these pieces to this puzzle to be successful at this because it could be. That was one of the things I remember my friend would run into was it would be these tiny pieces of land in between other land and they
Mhm.
couldn't put a sewer or anything. And I was like, I don't understand like what where you're buying. And she's like, well, I thought I was getting this, but it was not. And so she ended up with I think a lot of things she couldn't use. But then you get the guy next to you that wants a little bit more land and you've got it. And
You're
but
right.
she I do remember buying, she was kind of buying in the swampy areas. I do remember her getting a lot of things that she couldn't build on or couldn't put a sewer because it was too close to the other house or something. So
Right.
someone would definitely need to learn all the ins and outs like that.
Right. You need to know in that county what's the minimum parcel size in order to build. But I mean, if you can get it cheap enough and then you sell it to the neighbor and they can just combine the lots and make their property more valuable, then it could still be a win. But you need to really do your research and know the area and how much you're willing to pay for it, which I loved about what you said. When you went to the auctions, you knew your max price and
Yes.
you walked away if it went above that. Because sometimes you get in this like bidding process, like they call it the eBay effect, where you're bidding against other people and you're just doing it because you're competitive. Well, that doesn't help your bank account, right? So you hit it on the nail when you said you've got to have that price in mind and don't go above it because if you've done your research properly, that's the number that you need to hit in order for you to be profitable.
Yeah,
Otherwise, walk away. You
it is. And my husband and I both are that really crazy competitive person. And up in the mountains in Colorado, they have auctions online from time to time. And the last couple auctions, we're bidding on this house and I don't know, it was up to like 275 or something like that. Then someone bid 1,000. I'm like, oh. So then we bid 1,000. And the next thing you know, it's just going up in these $1,000 increments because you're getting to like the value. And I'm
Mhm.
like, I told Bill, I said, dang it. And I always write my number down on a piece, like I write it on a piece of paper and I circle it. This is it. Because I'll be like, oh, just one more thousand, but it's not one more thousand because they're gonna bid, then it's two more thousand. And the last one, I really wanted that house so bad. I was like, you know what? Let's just bid a little bit more. So we bid up like three or four more times, and then the other person still kept bidding. I was like, oh, and I was so upset. I thought, okay, 8 bids ago is when I should have said no. And I'm really good about sticking to my guns. But sometimes, like, I don't know, you're right. You just get like in the frenzy and you're like, come on. And you're trying to get the property. And I didn't get it. But then, interestingly enough, it came back up on the auction block up there. I
Mm.
can't remember the name of that. Hudson and Marshall, I think was the name. I think they merged with somebody else now. And I said, Bill, look, it's the house again. I said, why don't we just like contact the people directly, see if we can
Mhm.
buy it before it goes up and offer them what we were going to pay before? And they took it and we bought it.
Nice.
And I was like, I ended up with it anyway. But I got caught up in the frenzy because it had been a minute since I'd done an auction. And it's really hard to stick to your guns
Yeah,
for
absolutely, and
me.
that's a good
Hard
way.
for me.
It's a good way to build out your team. If you know that about yourself, that you could be the emotional buyer, then hire someone else to go do your bidding for you, or perhaps as part of your team, that's their job is to go bid. You're doing all the back end research, and then they go to the auction house and they spend the time to do the bidding because they're not as emotional as that you know that you are.
I am. I get caught up in the frenzy, especially. Do you remember the days when they used to have, like at a big hotel, they'd have all those big FHA auctions and like hundreds
Mhm.
of investors would come in person and bid?
Yeah.
I used
Mhm.
to lose my mind. I would look at all the houses. My partner and I would have all written down the ones we want, what we were going to pay. But then you're in there and like everyone's in the room and everyone's got a little auctioneer and everyone's got a paddle. And it's like, it's hard.
And I started, I can start questioning myself, like, maybe I didn't run my numbers correctly. What do they know that I don't know? Why are they going higher than me? And you can kind of get into that, downward spiral. And then you start bidding higher and you walk away and
Mhm.
maybe you get an asset that you overpaid for. And that's obviously not the goal for this
Mm,
investment.
it's not, but auctions are so much fun. And doing them online, that'd be fun. I like doing the houses online. Doing them online like that, that'd be fun too.
Well, and
Um,
it's like a submit it and you wait and see. So
but you
sometimes,
submit it first and then you just wait. Are you enjoying this episode? Make sure you don't miss a single solitary episode. Click subscribe, like, follow, all the things so you'll get notifications whenever time a new show comes out. And let your friends know about it too. It's amazing. All right, so if you want to learn more about real estate investing, just reach out to dwanderful.com. I'll send you some free stuff. Back to the show. So, what is like in the state of Florida? What's the highest interest that can be charged for tax liens?
yep. So in Florida, the minimum is 5% and the highest is 18%.
Okay, so 8% and then five. So basically, if 100 people submit it, one person says, "I'll take 18 or 12 or 10 or whatever." They just they open it. Whoever is willing to pay the least, they win.
Yeah. Yeah. Whoever puts in for the least amount of interest rate typically will be the winner.
Yeah, so so people would have to, really, like you said, like really have a point. Like I need to stand my ground at this number because if you're making 5% and it sits there for 2 years, not that that's a bad thing, but depending on the amount of money, you could have done something else with the money.
Yeah, absolutely.
And don't all the states? I think all the states have tax liens, don't they?
No, some of them don't do tax liens. They'll actually go through the foreclosure process and sell the deed to the property, but that will be an in-person auction when that occurs.
Hmm. And they do them, I know, on commercial buildings, houses,
Mm.
land, everything.
Yeah, everybody
Yeah.
owes taxes to the government, so they're going to collect it whether or not you're going to pay it, someone else will come in and pay it for you.
Yeah. So then when the bank or the person steps up and goes, okay, now I'm ready to get back on track, they pay it off and then you get your money back plus whatever interest that you collected.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
See, that is really a fun way. That is a fun passive way to make money. I should do that here in Iowa. Now we're here, we're spending so much time in this little town. There's so many vacant buildings sitting around here. I think that
Yeah, in Iowa, I believe so. Depending on how long the homeowner or property owner goes without paying, I think their interest rate, if I remember correctly, is up to 24% in Iowa.
Well, now I'm going to have to do some checking. I may have to call you myself for a little bit of coaching.
Yeah, hey, let's do some investing together. If you're boots
Yes,
on the ground to see stuff, that's a great opportunity.
24% is really good. I always tell people, I say, listen, if they're following me, it's like, hey, listen, I can teach you these things, but I can't teach somebody everything. I mean,
Right.
I just can't. And if you think you can teach somebody everything, you should not be teaching because you're going to hurt more than you're going to help most people, I think. And so that's why, I love to have people like you on. It's like, hey, I've done that, but it's been so long. I could explain the concept to a person, but I couldn't help them
Mm.
actually do it because I would be learning as I was doing. So I really like to have people come on that do things that I don't do. But then I
Yeah.
get excited. I'm like, okay, I should do that. But then I think, no, no, no. Now I just stay within my focus of what I'm doing because then I'll be all over the map.
Right. So, but I mean, that's the big thing about real estate investing. There's so many avenues that you can pick and choose from that just pick one, learn, become a student, find a mentor, partner
Yep.
with someone who's been doing it for a while, and then you can go off on your own. But just pick one lane and stick to it. Because if it's profitable for you, then why else your
Yeah,
time
I
and
tell
spend it
people,
somewhere else?
yeah, we still do, we do 2-day workshops a lot. I just did one in Vegas 2 weekends ago, and I mean, there was people there from just interested in everything in the world, and I said, "Listen, it's okay to learn a little bit about everything, but you're not gonna want to do everything because you're gonna find something that you really like, and you're going, 'Wow, that really, makes me feel fulfilled. I really like this.' Find the thing that you like, but know about the other things. So if a deal comes across your plate that's not in your realm, you could say, 'Hey, I could give this to Angela. You can give it over.' Or if you're, wanting to buy single family homes and someone comes along with a multi-unit, you can say, "Hey, I can give that to these people." And so it's good to know a little bit about everything, but I always tell people don't try to be an expert on every single thing because I feel like people that try to do that miss a lot of things because they're maybe too all over the map and the opportunities probably just fly by them that they don't even see because they don't have enough focus on what they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Agree with you 100% on that one.
Yeah, I do too. So, I mean, I love doing all of it, and now that we're talking, I'm just like, "Ooh," but then in reality, I probably won't do it because I'd have to learn so much. And right now, I'm up to, literally my eyeballs rehabbing these 20 buildings here in the town. It's like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so busy right now." But, yeah, I like that, but I like tax investing. I haven't even thought about that for a while. That's a really I think for everyone listening, that's a really good thing to do because it's not risky. You're gonna get your money back. You're gonna get it back with some interest.
Mhm.
So I think once you learn the steps to do it, it is a good way to be completely passive.
Yeah, well, maybe look for the properties that are in the immediate vicinity of what you're doing on remodeling.
Mhm.
Because if there's another building that you're not going to be a part of your project, see if they have paid their taxes and maybe they haven't. So while you're there and you're doing that rehab for the other projects, you go through that process and maybe you end up with that property and you're just adding it to the overall portfolio of what you're already working on now.
I'm 100% gonna do that though. There's a couple buildings around here boarded up, and they've been boarded up forever, ever, ever, like 10 years. I'm like, hmm. I'm thinking I may have to do a little bit of investigation.
Yeah. Yeah. Here in
But tell
Florida,
me,
we can go online and I can check to see how many years or if they're delinquent on their property taxes. So it'll be
one
something that you can do part of your research so that when the auction comes up, you can already have your list ready.
fun. Now, when you go online like that, can everyone go? Do you have to pay for a service? How does that work for people?
Yeah, so in Florida, it's free. The online auction is free. I can check Hillsborough tax assessor. That's one of the counties I look at. I
Mhm,
can see if their property tax has been paid for the previous years.
mhm.
And that's also part of my buy box is I want to be the first year. In Florida, it takes a couple of years for it to foreclose. So you could have one, two, maybe three tax lien certificates out there. I want to be first in line because for me, I feel more comfortable that I'm going to get paid first. It's possible that all three get paid, but it's also possible that whoever comes in and does the foreclosure and wins the bid, if not enough money is on the bid, then some of the other, tax lien holders could potentially not get paid. So I go back to what is my buy box and how can I be as conservative as possible, as
Mhm.
passive as possible, and then I only buy within my box.
That's good. I love that. I love that. Now tell me, I asked you this before we started. The money on the wall behind you. Tell me the concept of all the different kinds of money.
Yeah. So for me, I like the visual aspect of currency because I grew up in poverty. And when you grow up in poverty, you don't have money, no one teaches you about money. You can have some negative, like emotional connection to money. So when people start, talking to me and I can feel that scarcity mindset coming from them, I want to remind them that it's just a piece of paper. Does not care who you are, man, woman, what your upbringing was, how much money you have has absolutely no tie to that. It's just a tool that you're going to use to help reach your financial goals. And so when you can see it in a visual aspect, you can touch it, feel it. You're like, oh, just like my pen over here. It's just a tool. So let's shift that mindset so we can focus more on obtaining money to get to your goals versus being scared of losing something because you didn't have it when you grew up.
Yep. No, I get that. So I like graduated high school, hold on, in the 70s. But back then, and lived in Ohio in like in a like in the country. And no one, like, we weren't taught about money and having money and managing money. I was taught at my time period, it was like, get out of high school, go work for General Motors, work for the car factory, retire from the man, get married and have kids, and that will be your life. And I just remember thinking, and I actually did work at a factory for like 2 weeks, and I thought, why would somebody want me to do this? This is the worst thing that's ever happened. I'm only 18. I'm like, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. It's horrible. Who would want me to work here, until because, when you're 18, 60 is like almost dead. It's like, who would want me to work until I die? But I did it. And I thought, wow, that's insane that people like want that on purpose. But I didn't know anything about money. So when I first started investing, I had to not only learn real estate, I had to learn money. I had to hire bookkeepers. I didn't know how to balance my checkbook. Like, it was
Mhm.
really shocking how much I did not know about money. And that's like money literally makes the world go round. You have to have it for everything. And so I made sure that my kids are like financially literate, but I had to read so many books. I took classes. I took classes at my church. I read book. I hired accountants and CPAs and all the people. And I was like, just help me understand. I don't want to do it. I just want to understand it so you can do all the paperwork for me. But I just feel like the schools just don't teach a lot of financial literacy.
Yeah, agree with you 100%. And even the way that we sit in a classroom has never changed, right? You sit in a row, you have a leader that's in front of you that's telling you what to do, what to think, what to read, what test you're going to take, and you abide by their rules. It doesn't allow you to be independent. It's really dependent on the person in front of you, which was really conforming you to be an employee to an employer, right? That's
Yep.
how we were brought up. And it
Yep.
hasn't changed. I mean, my daughter's school, she went through a private school and they allowed these movable seats, which really helped them to work in teams. But if you look at the traditional classroom in the public school, it's still exactly the same, but it's teaching them still to be employees instead of entrepreneurs that can
Yep.
create jobs and experiences and wealth for other people. There's so many aspects of how we're brought up and taught that hasn't changed in the 100 years that we've had school system.
It really has. It's too bad. I've gone to some of my high school reunions, and some of the teachers, like, we were in high school, they were just in their 20s. And they were
Mm.
like, oh, we used to smoke pot all day. Like, they were stoned. It was the 70s. They were all stoned and teaching us. It's like, really? That's how we learn. It's like, no
Mhm.
wonder. All right, let's jump topics for a minute.
Oh,
And
sorry.
I love everything you love about real estate. I love what you do. It's a really good niche for people. It really is a good niche, and I'm excited to have you on talking about that. Like I said, in the last 5 years, I probably only interviewed, gosh, less than, I don't even know, a tiny handful of people that do tax liens. So I'm glad to have that because I feel like that's something that people just don't know about.
Mhm.
Like, you'd really have to meet a person to tell you about that. And I mean, unless you know, like, you studied and went to college, learned everything about finances and real estate, you know all the things. But I don't think most people start like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you don't want to own individual tax liens, there are funds that you can be an investor in that go and do all the work for you. Obviously,
Yep.
the returns aren't as great as if you did it yourself. And about 80% of tax liens do go to funds because their target is a little bit lower than maybe you as an individual. They might be willing to take 8% versus, you're looking for 10%, but they're not going to pick up everything. So just keep that in mind when you're bidding. And I always tell people too, like if you're bidding, don't get overwhelmed in the bidding process, because if you bid on it and you win it, the county expects you to pay right away. So
Right away.
only bid at the max of what you think you can have in the bank, because you're not going to win every one of them. That's probably a fact there. But if you do win 80% of them, make sure you've got that money in the bank, because you're going to have to pay it right away.
Yeah, when we used to go to the courthouse in Broward County and bid on houses, I think you had to have like a $2,500 cashier's check, but you had to come back with the rest of the money that day,
Mm-hmm.
like that day. And I was like, so I was always like, "Ooh, I don't know, I don't want to bid too much." Cause like, you're bidding like a $50,000 house, you have to have all the money. Like you can't go out and get it and borrow. Like you gotta come back that day. That was always, I still bid, but that was always scary. Like, what if I get it and then like I don't have and you think you have enough, but then you end up even 2 or 3 thousand over could like kick your
Mm-hmm.
deal out.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's jump topics. What is your favorite band of all time?
Favorite band, Linkin Park.
Oh, I like Lincoln Park.
Yes, I actually was in the car with my daughter when the lead singer was announced that he passed away. And I sat there and I cried. And she looked at me. She was too young to really understand the emotional attachment you can get to music. And she's
Oh
like,
yeah.
"You don't even know him. Why are you crying?" And then she had this big crush on Shawn Mendes later, a few years later. And she's like, "Mom, I get it now. I'm emotionally attached to this person."
You are. I know. It's so funny. It's like I feel the same way. Anyone from my decade, like when Michael Jackson died, I think I cried for a week. I was so devastated. Like, but I was going to marry him when I was 10. Like, and you're so emotionally attached to these people. It's like, golly, you really do. And my kids all get it, even my grandkids now. They're little. They're 2, 4, 8, and 9. But I'm teaching them. Well, actually, I'm teaching them about music from the 70s because I can
Mm.
safely put on something from the 70s and there's no cursing in it.
Country music would be another
This
one for you.
and country, yeah, so because this is 70s is a pre like, you didn't even say "damn" in a song, it's pre-cursing music, and then my son, he's got Rammstein, I'm like, "The hell's wrong with you? These kids are little kids, you can't let 'em listen to that stuff," and it's like, "Good lord." So, I'm teaching them 70s music, but unfortunately, a lot of those people have passed on, so they're like,
Mm.
"Well, we wanna meet Michael Jackson," it's like, he's in
Yeah.
heaven," like, "We love Tom Petty," it's like, yeah, he's in heaven too. And then it's like, and I think, well, maybe I should need to teach them something where they're not all dead because they're kids, but they get it too. What's your favorite food?
Japanese food. I'm a quarter Japanese. My mom was born in Japan. I had the chance to go to Japan in 2019, and I absolutely love real Japanese food.
I bet. I love Japanese food too. I'm a major sushi, but I imagine the food there is like unbelievable.
Yeah, and their sushi's different. We get a lot of frou-frou. You don't get cream cheese and asparagus and stuff like that in Japan.
I know. I do like the cream cheese. I like all the sauces. It's like if I went over there, I'd probably be like, what are they eating? And what's your favorite part of the day? What's your like from the morning to the night? Where's your favorite part of the day?
I love the morning. I feel like I'm most refreshed, and then that's like the part of my day I can control. And I have a morning routine that I'm very strict about. So the morning time for me is important.
Good, good, good. All right. So, what is your biggest goal that you're working on right now? And how can the wonderful family help you reach that goal, Angela?
Yeah, so I want to launch my own tax lien fund. And so I'm working on that with an attorney. What does that look like? I really want to build out great systems so that we can take in money and help people have passive income without having to do all the work of the tax lien, but still being able to teach that too.
Well, that is a great goal. I love that goal. I'm going to claim that goal for you. And everyone that listens, listen, this would be a great thing to be involved in. Launching your own tax lien fund. I'm going to help claim that for you, girl.
Oh, thank you. I do
I
have
love it.
a free giveaway if you'll allow me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
If you go to morewithangela.com/fire, I did write a short, but I did write a starter to the course ebook that you can get for free. So morewithangela.com/fire, and it's yours for free. It's a great way for you to kind of get educated on what tax lien investing could look like and see if this might be something you want to pursue.
I'm going to sign up and get one today. I
Awesome.
like to get all the free stuff. Yeah, so that's what I was going to ask you. Do you have anything you want to offer, anything you want to give out, any place you want to send people directly, anything at all that can help them on their journey?
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Okay, so anything else you want to give out or talk about, or any place you want to send people? Tell me your YouTube one more time.
YouTube is Empower Her Money.
Okay,
Instagram, Empower Her Money, and then Angela Duncan on LinkedIn and Facebook.
nice, nice, nice. I love it. And the other one is More with Angela.
.com/fire.
Okay, fire. Good. I'm going to go get one of those today.
Yay.
I love to get I like all the things.
Yes, I saw on your website too, you got freebies, so I'm downloading.
Yeah. Well, we got to give people stuff to get them started because, I started from a place of no knowledge. Well, actually, going back, I've been investing for almost 35 years. There was not even Google. So nobody had a
Mhm.
website. There was no Google. There's like that stuff didn't exist. So when people tell me today, like, oh, Dwan, it's so hard. It's like, I don't even want to hear from you.
Yeah.
I did not have GPS. I had to use map books. Everything was done by hand, by driving, by phone calls. There was no looking things up. Like that didn't even exist. When I hear someone complaining, I'm like, no.
Yeah, I used to print out like Google Maps to when I was a real estate agent to put properties in order so I knew how to get from one property to the next property without having to pull out that big, map book. So definitely understand that too. But a great thing about freebies is because if you are interested in a topic, this allows for you to get some knowledge and then determine whether or not you want to get more knowledge instead of going out and buying like $1,000 course on tax liens. This gives you an
Yes.
opportunity to learn a little before you take that bigger investment.
No, I agree with you. I'm all about freebies too. So I love that. Okay, so one more thing I have for you, but just real quick to everybody else. If this is your first time listening to the most wonderful real estate podcast ever, if you laughed or liked anything or like her music choices or Japanese food with us or just anything at all, I want you to subscribe. I want you to leave a 5-star review. I also want you to go to YouTube, just YouTube /wonderful real estate and subscribe, hit the bells, all of the things. Follow both of us everywhere because we're here to help you and educate you and teach you things that we have learned and specialized in since we started. And there's no reason to try to go out and reinvent the wheel. Like all the real estate wheels have been invented. So work with people that you feel like you align with and let us help you cut your learning curve. People like the two of us, like literally, we can cut your learning curve by decades. So do
Mhm.
that. Also, I'm at Dwanderful everywhere, like Facebook, LinkedIn, I don't know, Instagram, Threads, just everything is Dwanderful. Okay, so Angela, one last thing is I want you to give us a parting word of wisdom, but just one single word.
Research.
Okay, research. I think you may have been the first person that gave me research.
Mm.
But I love it. Okay, so my people that listen on the regular know that I tell them to take like a little yellow sticky and put the word research and put it up on the bathroom mirror. And research is the so that's our word of the week in the wonderful world is research. So just tell us what that means to you.
Yeah, before you decide to put your money anywhere, you definitely need to put a great amount of time into research.
Couldn't have said it better myself. All right, everybody. Thank you for being on. Remember, we'll be back next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. And remember that the truth is in the red letters. Okay. Ciao. Angela, thank you. Hang on before we go. And goodbye, everybody. Have a good week. Make lots of money. Make good choices. You just had a taste of the most wonderful real estate podcast ever. So just one more thing before you go. If you laughed, if you learned something, please leave a 5-star review. Don't be a gatekeeper. Share it with everyone that you know. And I'll see you back here next week for the most wonderful real estate podcast ever.